Well, hey Redeemer, thank you for joining us for this month's edition of The Big Idea, which is our monthly video to talk to you about Redeemer's strategic priorities and direction and where the Lord is leading us for the next phase of our life and ministry together. So as you know, over the last several months, we have been talking to you about the strategic priorities that Redeemer has identified for our future. And on Sunday, May 18th, we formally adopted these three strategic priorities for our ministry for the next 5 years. RLC Groups, RLC Learn, and RLC Digital. So now where do we go from here? What's next? Now that we have formally adopted those three strategic priorities, we are going to be putting together 4 different teams to help us to really put a fine point on these three priorities for the next 6 months, the next year, and beyond. We know globally what we want to accomplish with these priorities, but now it's time to really sharpen the point and say, okay, over the next 6 months, here's what we're going to be doing. Over the next year, here's what we're going to be doing. Those kinds of things, and actually implement very clear goals and objectives for each one of these strategic priorities for the near term. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be putting these 4 teams together. Let me tell you a little bit about these 4 teams. First, the group's search committee. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting a team of people together that is going to do a nationwide search for our next ministry staff person. This person is going to need to have the requisite skills and experience to move RLC groups forward in our ministry, to help us to build this network of interconnected relationships that will help us to really thrive as we reach people for Jesus, but also embrace them in a Christ-centered community and nurture them in God's word to be faithful disciples, right? So this person is going to really lead the charge with these efforts, okay? So we need to put a search committee to do that. Now, let me be clear about this, because this search committee is going to be looking for a certified director of Christian education who is somebody that is trained within the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod to do this kind of work, right? Somebody that's probably got 3 to 5 years of experience, something like that. But we also have to keep open-minded to the fact that we may not be able to find somebody within the Missouri Synod who can do exactly what we were wanting them to do, right? In the same way that there's a pastoral shortage in the Missouri Synod today, guess what? There is also a shortage of professional church workers, trained church workers who can do this kind of thing. So while we want to certainly look at who's out there as a director of Christian education within our church body, we also have to be open-minded that if this person isn't out there, we may have to look in other spaces. We may have to look at local churches and local other institutions to bring somebody on that's got that requisite skill set. And then once we bring them onto staff, we give them the training so that they, from a theological perspective, are speaking the same kind of language that we are, that they understand what the Lutheran identity is all about, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we just have to be open-minded there. So we have to have a community, a committee of people that is going to help us to find that person, okay? So that's one group. Another group is going to be in the RLC Learn space. And what this group is going to help us to do is to help us to bridge the gap in formal ways between our Child Development Center and beginning in the fall of 2026, our school, right, Redeemer School, and our ministry, right, by putting programs and initiatives together, working with Lindsay Douglas, working with Becky Wade, to try and put some programs and initiatives together that will formally build that bridge in more concrete ways so that CDC families and school families are getting engaged in our children's ministry and in the life of the church, right? So we need to not just assume that that bridge is going to be built and that's going to happen. We actually have to do it intentionally, right? So that team is going to help us to build RLC Learn, okay? So there's that team. And then there's RLC Digital, which again is a team of people that is going to be looking at taking our digital ministry, online offerings, right? Whether it be live stream or our classes or small groups or whatever, taking that online ministry and raising it up and making it better both from a technological standpoint as well as from a reliability, all that kind of stuff, right? Making sure that we've got a digital ministry that is thriving, okay? That it's not just okay, but it's actually really, really good. So those are the 3 teams here. And then once the search committee does its job and finds this next staff person, then we also recognize that within the next year, we're gonna have a team of people that's gonna really start to help us looking at groups and how do we expand groups. We could probably start this without this person, but it makes a whole lot better sense to have this person in place before we really launch here. So anyway, just understand that the next step, now that we have adopted the 3 strategic priorities formally, the next step is going to be put these 4 teams of people together and to get us really moving forward into these 3 strategic priorities. So my ask is this: if you have a passion and experience for any of these three ministry priorities, any of these 4 teams, let me know, okay? Because over the next couple of months, we're going to be putting these teams of people together, putting the marching orders together for these teams, and then basically launching them and saying, okay, go do the thing, right? Start putting plans together, start really putting some goals and objectives together about how do we grow in all of these 3 priorities for the next year. Okay, so that's what's coming, right? That's what's coming. So again, I would encourage you, first of all, please continue to pray for these priorities, right? This is going to be huge for the life of Redeemer over the next 5 years. There's nothing more exciting, there's nothing more important than these 3 priorities for us for the next 5 years. Okay, so please continue to pray for this, but also continue to pray for these teams and for their development. And finally, again, if you want to be a part of these teams, let me know, because we're going to be putting these teams together over the next couple of months. Okay? So thank you, Redeemer, for paying attention to this month's edition of The Big Idea, where we talk about these strategic priorities. And next month, we will give you updates about how things are going in these areas as we continue to move forward with reaching people for Jesus, embracing them in a Christ-centered community, and nurturing them in God's Word to be faithful disciples. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.